Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. But before we head over to the arena, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors of the show, Group Therapy Bike Tours and Slim Chickens. We'll start with Group Therapy. They are all in on the Nebraska basketball wave. Head over to grouptherapybiketours.com and book your ride today for all of your pregame, post-game, whenever game, birthday party, wedding, family reunion, corporate event. They have a 15-person trolley ride, a 6-person mini bike for whatever event you want to celebrate. And like I said, it is full force in Nebraska. If you've gone to a Nebraska game, I'm sure you've seen the trolleys riding around the Haymarket and downtown Lincoln. If you go over to grouptherapybiketours.com and use the promo code NebraskaBall, you will save 15% on your first ride. So make sure you head on over there and support our great sponsor. It's a ton of fun. I've been on it several times. Could not recommend it enough. Now over to our other sponsors, Slim Chickens. Bill Hooks and his wife Stacy are diehard Nebraska fans, and they couldn't wait to jump on the Nebraska basketball train. Locally owned Slim Chickens has 2 locations, 84th and Old Cheney and 16th and Pine Lake. Slim Chickens features a variety of options with fried and grilled chicken tenders, wings, salads, wraps, sandwiches, chicken and waffles, and southern sides. What makes Slim's different? Well, they have over 17 different dipping sauces for guests to choose their favorite. Slim Chickens is available for dine-in, drive-thru, or delivery via their online ordering. Check out Slim Chickens app and start earning rewards today. Slim Chickens is always a favorite for large gatherings and tailgate parties, especially Nebraska basketball tailgate parties, and let them do the cooking for you. Slim Chickens is moving forward, and they are expanding to the north side of Lincoln soon, so keep an eye out for that. Stop into your local Slim Chickens restaurant today for some southern hospitality and see their newly remodeled locations. Again, thanks to all our sponsors. Now let's head over to the arena and take you courtside with me, Rob and Washut. Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut here at Pinnacle Bank Arena for yet another top 10 matchup. The first top 10 matchup in PBA history. And so a lot on the line for this one. Illinois comes for the rematch after Nebraska won 83-80 on Jamarcus Lawrence's buzzer beater up in Champaign. That was the game that kind of opened a lot of eyes nationally about how real this Nebraska team was. And it's interesting because a lot has changed since that game for both teams. If you look back, obviously Kylan Boswell was the heartbeat of that Illinois team in the first meeting. Well, he's out with a broken wrist. And as a result of that, Illinois' kind of identity has shifted a bit to where now Keaton Wagler, the stellar freshman guard for the Illini, has really emerged as not only one of the best freshmen in the Big Ten Conference, but one of the best freshmen in the country, and maybe one of the best overall players, certainly overall scorers in the league. He's averaging over 17 a game, leads him in assists, really is kind of has taken over of what Boswell did in terms of just kind of initiating the offense and being that go-to guy. And over the last 13 games, I believe, he's averaging over 20 points per game, including dropping 46 at Mackey Arena against Purdue, which people just don't do. So it's been interesting to watch Illinois' evolution to where even just a couple months removed, they're a much different team, particularly just because they had to shift away from Boswell, and then that opened the door for Wagler to really come into his own and become a bona fide star in this league. But the rest of Illinois is pretty much the same, except everybody's just playing a little bit better right now. Illinois has not lost since that defeat in Champaign, and what you've seen them really kind of own in on is what their strengths were going into that first Nebraska game, and particularly that's running through their bigs. I like to call them the Eastern European All-Stars, the Itch brothers, the Mirkovic, all that stuff. So they have kind of recommitted to running through their front court, and it's not just the scoring and getting paint touches, it's the way that they've dominated the boards. They have been absolutely dominant on the glass, particularly the offensive glass. The last game against Washington, I think they had 40% of their misses turned into offensive rebounds. And look back on that game when Nebraska jumped out to that big lead in that first meeting. Price Sanford was unconscious, whatever. Nebraska was just doing anything it wanted offensively. But the way that Illinois was able to close the gap, especially at the end of the first half, they did it by eating up offensive rebounds and getting multiple possessions and racking up second chance points. They had 13 offensive boards for 19 second chance points in that game, and that is clearly going to be a priority for them again tonight. Obviously taking away Price on the defensive end is going to be probably key number one for them. But on the other end, they know they have a pretty distinct advantage with their front court and their ability to extend possessions, get multiple shots per possession because of the way that they can clean up on the board. So that is going to be number one priority for Nebraska. They have to finish defensive stops. They cannot give Illinois 1, 2, 3 shots per possession because, one, they're too good, and two, it's just kind of exhausting, both physically because you're battling after every shot to get rebounds, but then mentally too, just having to reset after playing really good defense for 30 seconds, and then they get another fresh 20 on the shot clock. Like, that's the kind of thing that Nebraska has to try to mitigate as much as possible. And then with that too, they need to play with pace. They can't let Illinois just kind of slow the game down and dominate the paint, dominate the boards, and just kind of work through their bigs. The best way to eliminate bigs having that kind of impact is to get up and down the floor as quickly as possible. So I would expect Nebraska to push the pace quite a bit in this game. Now, the good news is that Illinois doesn't turn you over. The bad news is they don't turn it over on their end too. So whoever takes better care of the basketball in this one is going to have a pretty distinct advantage. And, Nebraska did not turn the ball over at all in that first meeting. They only had like 6 turnovers in that win in Champaign, and that was a huge part of it, just because, again, Illinois is not going to make mistakes. They're not going to give you free points with transition opportunities, so Nebraska can't afford to do that either. And, again, the good news is the Huskers have been really good at ball security, being efficient offensively, and creating good shots. And I think that needs to obviously stay the same, but then translate into transition opportunities. And if you look behind me right now, the legend, Kent Pavelka.
Hi, folks.
Kent?
Robin.
Give me 2 thoughts on the game right now.
Wagler, Mast, and Prager. There's 3 thoughts that I'm pondering right now.
What do you think? What's your score prediction?
I don't have one. I think it's going to be a really hard game. Illinois is going to be wide awake for this one. I don't know that they were on December 13th,
I agree. And then they're 2 different teams, too, because without Boswell, and they kind of shifted to Wagler, whereas Nebraska's trying to get Rink back in the fold, and Rink was a big part. He had 17 points in that first one. Yeah. So,
am I done now?
Yes, you're done.
Are you dismissing me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, KP.
All right.
Yes, Kent made an excellent point there. I, too, wonder how dialed in Illinois was. Now, that environment at State Farm Center State Farm Arena was good. It was despite like a massive snowstorm that hit Champaign that night or that day, the student section showed out, and it was hostile. I mean, there was a dude behind me that was just riding Sam the entire game, basically saying he didn't deserve a spot because he's the coach's kid, and yelling at Fred that his kid sucked. And so it was kind of got a little nasty in there. So, I'm not going to say that the environment, the fans weren't dialed in, but I'm just curious about Illinois, because Nebraska wasn't this Nebraska back in December. They were kind of a team that people were just like, all right, well, now they're entering Big Ten play. Yeah, they just whooped Creighton. Yes, they just whooped Wisconsin, but now they're going on the road against a top 15 Illinois team that is going to be a real test and kind of probably bring them back down to earth a little bit. And I just wonder if Illinois didn't have a little bit of that in the back of their heads in that one. Well, if they did or if they didn't, that certainly will not be the case again today. Nebraska has made it very clear that they are a legitimate contender in this conference. They're a legitimate contender for a top seed in the NCAA tournament. They're a legitimate contender to be one of the top 4 seeds in the Big Ten tournament. So that part of it is gone now. And then Nebraska went in there and beat them on their home floor. That still sticks with Illinois. And I remember looking back at some of the interviews that they did after that game, especially this over the last couple of days leading up to this one, reflecting back on the days following that loss to Nebraska. And a lot of Illinois guys said those practices right after that loss were the hardest that they'd had all season. And so Brad Underwood, I guarantee you, is going to make sure that his team does not sleepwalk through this one. I don't think that's an issue regardless, but they're going to be locked in, and they're going to be ready to go, and they're going to treat Nebraska like a top 5 opponent. So I don't think you're going to get the luxury of anyone sleeping on the Huskers this time. But again, Nebraska's got stuff to prove too. Like, Illinois has got plenty of motivation on their end. Well, so does Nebraska. They just lost their first game. They lost a game at Michigan, despite being down-ranked, despite being down Braden Frager, that they still felt they should have won. They watched the film, and apparently it was a pretty tough film session because of the mistakes, especially down the stretch, that ultimately turned the tide in keeping that from being a monumental upset. And I think that they realized that even if they were down and shorthanded, they were just as good as Michigan, and they let a signature victory, one that may have assured them a top overall seed in the tournament, maybe vaulted them up into the top 3 in the nation in the next AP poll that comes out. They realized that was an opportunity they missed out on, and so they're motivated from that alone. And after the game, when Price Sanford and Sam Hoiberg were talking after the Michigan game, you could see it in Price's face. Like, he was upset. And I guarantee you that is going to fuel Nebraska going into this one, because as disappointing as that missed opportunity was in Ann Arbor, the Huskers know they have just as big of an opportunity today in another top 10 matchup that could once again add another statement to their already impressive NCAA tournament resume. I'm going to sign off for right now. Appreciate you guys joining in. Make sure to tune in after the game for post-game reaction. Thanks again to our sponsors, Group Therapy Bike Tours and Slim Chickens. And also, if you haven't noticed, go to the NIL store, and go to the Nebraska tab. And there, if you look here, see all those T-shirts there? They are the graphic team T-shirts that all the students are getting for the whiteout today. Well, if you want one and you're not a student, head over to the NIL team store and use the promo code Husker15. That'll save you 15% on your order. They have jerseys. You can get like the 96 throwback jerseys. I know the Braden Frager one has been flying off the shelves here. So check it out. Husker 15, save 15%, and either get one of these sweet white T-shirts that all the kids are getting, or get yourself a jersey or any other player NIL team gear. All money goes to help support the student athletes. So anyway, that's all I got for now. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Courtside with Robin Washut. See you after the game.